You will be
Perfect.
on you'll be on our page. So
Live on Facebook. So I'm on live. I'm there too, I think.
you see it?
I
It should be
see it,
coming in
yeah.
the chat now.
Yeah. Because I didn't go myself on Facebook, but I can see the live. So
Yes. Good evening, friends. I'm Dr. Aajay Shah, and tonight I'm very Good evening, friends. I'm Dr. Aajay Shah, and tonight I'm very excited to bring a special guest, second, third, maybe fourth time. She's so special. She's so talented. She's so thorough. She's so personable, and she obviously knows what she's talking about. So this is like fourth or fifth time we are bringing her. So get excited, ask all your questions, have your comments. We will be taking all the questions pretty much throughout the US. Even if people are up in India, we can take questions from India also. So today we are bringing Moushumi Mukherjee, a registered dietitian. She lives in my area. I'm going to start with Moushumi. Welcome, Moushumi.
thank you, Dr. Shah.
So we all are excited to bring you here. I made a list of questions. This is going to be kind of a long live for both of us, all of us, because I'm going to try to cover everything we need to know about healthy eating, how we can lose weight, how we can treat the diabetes, how we can reverse the heart disease. And she is obviously, has a wealth of information. So, please hang in there. We're going to be covering a lot of different topics. So my first question to you, Moushumi, is where do you live and where did you go to school and what is your degree?
So right now I live in Okemos, Michigan, which is a small town in Michigan, and I was born and raised in India. Came here at a young age. I did do my master's here in human nutrition from Michigan State University, and got registered as a dietitian. And I've been practicing or I've been consulting now for more than 20 years. So yeah, it's been I think a wonderful, successful journey the last 20 years. And I tell people food is my passion. I live it. I love the changes, I can make or help people make the changes dietary wise. And that is not only my career, it's also my passion. I live for it. So thank you for inviting me to your show.
Yeah, thank you. So my first question to you is that let's start with what we eat in America. We call standard American diet. So what is your opinion about what we eat every day in America?
So the standard American diet, like you're saying, and I know things are changing here too, is a lot of processed foods. There is a high intake of red meats, and there is a big use of prepackaged processed foods, which again, I'm sure as a cardiologist, has led to multiple chronic problems, autoimmune disorders, so many disorders. In fact, it's very interesting that 63% of calories of standard American people come from processed foods, which I guess is all of us, which is sad. And truly, I think, as I see more and more clients, things are changing. People are looking to change things around. In fact, one of the things with this lockdown has been people cooking at home. It's more home cooked meals. So staying away from processed foods, which was very, very high in our country here. So yeah, to me, or, that's how we, I guess, could describe a standard American diet. I feel like there is lesser intake of fruits and vegetables and more of meats and processed foods. There's a lot of use of processed foods too. So,
I think I agree with you. I think, like you said, 65% calories come from processed food, 25% come from animal products, including red meat, even a lot of processed meat, chicken, fish, and dairy, and only 10% come from plant-based food. And as I understand, out of 10%, 8% is a processed plant-based food, which, like Oreo
Yes.
is a plant food. French
Yeah.
fries is a
Yeah.
plant food.
Of
Ketchup
course.
is a
Of
plant food,
course.
but they're all processed plant food. So
They
I think
are.
only
They
two
are.
percent of 2% of calories come from whole food plant-based food, actually. So I
Yes.
agree with you. It's
Abs.
really a sad diet, SAD, sad diet. Yes.
It is very sad. I don't know if you followed my blog or not, but just a couple of days back, I wrote about fake meats. So the
Yes.
fake meats are, the meats that people, which is, a good thing that people are changing or wanting to do more plant-based diets. But when we talk about plant-based diets, they also need to be whole plant-based diets versus, again, like you said, the processed, because those meats, the fake meats, the plant burgers, and I'm not talking about every one of them, but quite a few of them are extremely high in sodium. They have so many preservatives, so many ingredients added that, really you're taking out the benefit of a plant-based diet then.
No, I think I agree with you. I think the way I take it, I had that kind of burger maybe once or twice in my life. The way I take it, that for Americans, if they want to make those plant-based burgers, processed burgers, as a transition food, like go from red meat to plant-based burger and go from plant-based burger to the whole food plant-based, to stop at the plant burgers is a fair call, because some people may not be able to jump from red meat to the whole food plant-based. So if they stop
Right.
at a plant-based burger for a few weeks, few months, that's fine. But that's not your final destination. Final
That's your
destination.
transition. You're right.
Um, so let's start with the, I know we talked about it mostly many times, and you are not a fan of all this different type of diets and fad diets, you call it. So I agree with you, but at least tell us that what diets come to your mind, which has come and gone, and what diets are still prevailing in America, what in your opinion is not a good diet, and then what do you think is the best diet for an average American?
So I say, which again, I've come on your show, like you said, on your show so many times, and I think I've said it over and over again. Let's stay away from the so-called diets. The whole diet culture is whenever they're coming up with a new diet, whether it be like a paleo diet or Atkins or keto, what is happening is none of them or none of us are thinking of long-term diets. We are not thinking of lifestyle changes. And here, as dietitians or as physicians, when we want to make a change with any of our clients, we want to make lifestyle changes that will stay with them, not today, not for 3 months, not for 6 months. We want it to become a way of life. And that's why I say that none of those diets really work. There's the diet, which is the whole food plant-based diet. I do like that, I will have to say, because it's basically my mantra. Stay away from processing, process any time. Like I said, even if people are on a plant-based diet or, any kind of diet, and you're eating all these processed foods, we are taking away the benefits of the whole food. So that's why, again, I am not very pro diets. When you ask what kind of diet do I recommend wholesome diet that includes all different macros and micros. You do not have to say no to any one food in particular. You can include everything. What we need to be mindful about, though, are our portion sizes, how much we are putting on our plates, and then the amounts, so basically we are using our minds and are thinking in making an estimate of what we are eating. And also, we are not eating just because, we are looking at just because it's a certain meal time, or because, oh my gosh, I'm so many calorie deficits, so I need to eat a meal to make up for those calories. No, I'm eating because I'm hungry. My body is asking for the food. So I think once we can make that mindset change, it really helps. Now, saying that, for example, with my diabetics, or even the pre-diabetics, we might be counting carbs. We might be looking at the calories because there's a diagnosis. Somebody who has had seizure, or has an issue where I'm recommending the keto, I might be looking at how much the fat is their body going into ketosis and what's happening. Or in some very extreme cases, I might have worked with the keto diet only for a partial time to get them to the weight and then transition for a long-term lifestyle change. But again, my plea is, or this is what I always try to tell everybody, try not to follow one of those diets, so stay away from the diet culture. Remember that a lot of food companies out there are making money on your behalf, because anytime they're saying don't eat this or eat that, right? So then what's happening is we are immediately putting all our energy in, say, just carbs or just fats or just proteins, and in fact we are processing those. So then it's becoming a processed food that we are consuming, and we're thinking we are on a diet. Of course you lose weight. Say you're on a keto, you are probably going to lose some weight, but are you able to sustain that for long term is the problem. Because like I said, you probably will not, you probably will believe, but just a statement is, Dr. Shah, that 80% of the people, of my clients that I see, are the ones that have failed in a diet, and they're frustrated because nothing has seemed to work. And so then, we work with them to make the lifestyle changes. Like I said, in your mind, if you can eat everything in healthy proportions, have your exercise, hydration, de-stress, it's a whole circle of things. It's not just, oh, I'm following this diet, and okay, now I'm going to lose weight, and then you'll gain it back. And then, and then you binge eat after that because, again, you're frustrated. And so the cycle continues.
No, I think I agree all the points you made. And I think as we remember, Atkins diet came in like late 80s, early 90s, lasted for 10 or 15 years, and it's gone now. I think
Yes.
keto diet has come on the vogue now, but my feeling is keto diets may turn into Atkins. Obviously, I'm going to be open for all science. I'm not going to be biased about keto. I want to respect keto community, but at the
Absolutely.
same time, we want to have a long-term data, which is more than 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And like you said, whole food plant-based diet has been practiced not for decades, but for centuries. Like if you go to
Yes.
Japan, if you go to some of the blue zones, those people are mostly plant predominant diet eating people. They like if you go to Okinawa, 70% of the calories come from sweet potato. And
Yes.
80%
Yes.
of this comes from carb. So they eat a lot of plant-based food. And
They do.
before all this Western fast food chain came, they did not have obesity, they did not have diabetes, they were living up to 90 and 100. So we have decades and centuries of experience with whole food plant-based diet. And that's the reason, like you said, that's my go-to diet, number one. Number two, I think whole food plant-based diet gives you so much variety because there are 300,000 eatable plants. Well, there are only
Absolutely.
5 or 7 kind of meat you can eat. So I think if you are plant-based, you have a rainbow diet where you can choose from thousands of items. Like my wife and you, Moushumi, you girls can make like 1,000 dish from the plants. 1,000 dish.
Yes. Yes.
There are
Oh,
not
yeah.
1,000 different kind of meat dish. Obviously you can have
Absolutely.
varieties, but there are only 5 basic kind of meat people keep eating. But plant has so much
Yes.
variety. So plant is more sustainable. Plant is more like, in my opinion, more variety. So, so that's a good answer you gave.
Yeah, yeah. And I completely agree with you, Dr. Shah. Sorry, I'm interrupting here. But the plant, I'm so passionate about this. See, the plant-based or the whole food diets, these have been tried for centuries and centuries and centuries, and they worked, right? Versus, any of the other diets. I mean, I love what you just said. So absolutely, why don't we try or do something that comes naturally? I mean, it's almost like it's been there versus all these evolutionary diets that we see. So
Exactly. So my next question to you is, and again, we may be going some random fashion, but some of these questions came from our audience, so and for all of followers. So my next question to you is that there is a now big movement, not just whole food plant-based, but whole food plant-based, no oil. Like if you look at a lot of Facebook groups, are titled now whole food plant-based, no oil. So oil is, as like you said, very processed food, very high calorie dense food. So what is your opinion on oil? Whether people should avoid oil completely, and if they want to have a small amount of oil, what type of oils they should use?
So, this is my thought. If you can avoid it, why not avoid it? So I will tell you, in the last few months or so, I myself have been doing many non-oil based recipes. So am I not using fat? I am. Okay. Again, we harp on the same point. So I am using, say, avocados. So what I'm doing is making my sauces with avocados, or I'm making my sauces with peanuts. I am extracting that and making that, and you don't need any oils then. So it's not like, so people might argue, oh my gosh, I'm not having fats. I'm not having my oil. Where am I going to get my fat from? You are getting your fat. I've used olives, I've used, like I said, my avocados for my, salad dressings, to cooking, starting from like curries to Mediterranean to Mexican food. I've used, that as my base instead of oil. And it turns out really, really well. So just keep in mind that, and this is just to give you guys an idea, a tablespoon of oil has about 120 calories. It's an average. But think of it. Start thinking now about how many calories then we are adding when we are cooking with oil, or frying, or, how much oil is in there. So those are things I want, again, to think about. The other part is, when we are using oil, that's also processed. Versus when you are using, say, your peanuts, crushing them into the sauces, like I've done, or my avocados, I am using an all natural product. It's wholesome. So, like I said, my mantra is, let's do things from scratch versus process. Saying that, if you had to use oil, different oils have different temperature bases that they do well with. I use extra virgin olive oil quite a bit. And in fact, follow my blog, because I will be, I'm in the process of writing an article just on oils, which, when, how to use them. So, but yeah,
I think so. If they want to follow your blog, what is the address, or how can they reach out to their blog?
Okay, so
is it on your page?
Yes, it's on my page.
Let me show everybody. So again, for all our friends and followers, this is the page, Dietitian Moushumi, Weight Loss and Healthy Eating. And she obviously has a phone number over there. She's based in Michigan, and she has a website. So if you go to her website, you should be able to read all her previous articles and blogs. And this video
on Facebook. Go on Facebook.
Also on Facebook also. We will be putting her Facebook page on our Facebook page also. And this video, what we are recording right now, will be on YouTube probably late tonight or tomorrow. So you'll be able to watch it on YouTube again and again. This could be one of your library when you have to go to any nutrition information. So again, take note of this phone number. and take note of this website address. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm on Instagram too,
And she's
Dr.
on
Shah.
Instagram. Yeah, that's
Yep,
perfect.
Instagram, Facebook, just follow me on Dietitian Moushumi. And I know Dr. Shah will always typically tag me, just like I tag him. We kind of work together, which is wonderful. You know, we have the same philosophy. So, I mean, you know, if you wanted to get in touch with me, you could go through his page or you can come on my page directly. You know, just follow me on Dietitian Moushumi and my phone number is there. You can text me and, you know, I will make sure to get back with you. So, yeah, so.
I think that for all our listeners, one thing I can say, the Moushumi is hands-on. She's very personable. She takes a deep interest, and she almost try to make you feel like she's sitting next to you 24/7. And that's what I also practice myself, that this is not just a half an hour consultation. She's available whenever you need her, you know, pretty much any time of the day. And she is asking you to text her. Not many dietitians will give out their phone number to text them. So take advantage of that. Obviously, you know, you have to make your own judgment, but I definitely advise and recommend Moushumi to all my patients, all our friends in our town, and many people have used their service and they have benefited tremendously. So let's go to our next question.
Thank you.
So we covered the oil. Next question is a major question, is another processed food, which is the sugar. Obviously, as American, we are eating a lot of sugar. What is your opinion on added sugar and sugary drinks and those soft drinks?
So, you know, to put it in one sentence, what is sugar? Sugar is calories with absolutely no nutrients, right? So, and I'm talking about processed sugar. So, do we really need sugar? We don't. Saying that, you know, you might argue and say, you know, fruits have sugar, you know, certain vegetables have sugar. That's a different kind of sugar. But what I'm talking about is, you know, cane sugar or the processed sugar, or sugar comes in many, many different names. You know, if you, you know, look in your ingredient list, you know, like your saccharides to, you know, it's called cane sugar to, you know, so many different names that, you know, sugar is used. And as, like I said, you know, sugar is the number one cause of headaches, inflammations in our body, you know, leave alone, you know, how I have a lot of clientele that tell me towards the evening or early afternoon, they feel like they are so low on their energy levels. And when I do a food recall, what I notice a lot of times is the sugar intake has been really high. Now, they might not even know that there is sugar, like there's so much sugar in ketchup, there's hidden sugar. So, you know, be really careful, be aware of the names, always read your ingredients whenever you're buying something. You know, my rule of thumb is if any food has more than 5 ingredients, I would be very careful to stay away from it, okay? Because the more ingredients, meaning the more sugar there is, the other killer, I say, sodium, and then your preservatives. So again, you know, let's try to stay away. And I'll tell you again, this is also another mindset change. Go slowly, go gradually, you know, say somebody drinks, I'm just saying, 4 Cokes a day. I would say cut it back to 3, 2, 1, and 0. So, you know, go gradually, because if you just crash cut it, you probably will not be able to sustain it for, you know, lifelong again. So go slow, you know, we are here to work with you, but, you know, definitely stay away, because like I said, absolutely, it's one food that I say has no nutrition at all.
Yeah, it's all empty.
Nothing in it. It's
Yeah,
just
it's
empty
all empty
calories. That's why it's called empty calories. So,
and what do you think of sugar substitutes? Everybody is on the sugar substitute now. I see every coffee shop, every place where people are using Splenda and stevia. What do you think? You think sugar substitutes are like a transition food, and eventually you should get off those one also?
I would definitely get off those too. Again, you might ask me why, because most of them, you know, are like 0 calories. But have you noticed, again, the ingredient list? in the, say, any sugar, any sugar substitute that we could use, from your Splendors to anything, they are undergoing a lot of processing to come to where they are. I would, if you have a really, really sweet tooth, I would rather you use a little tad bit of maple sugar, or your maple syrup, or your honey, or something like that. Now, be careful, because those also add up. Those are also calorically dense. But if you're somebody who just cannot do without sugar, and we are gradually transitioning, then I would definitely try to use the more natural products versus, doing any of like the 0-calorie ones. If you have to again use your sugar substitutes, like Dr. Shah said, just use it as a transition to go on to like a no sugar.
I think your point is well taken. Number one, avoid sugar by all means if you can. And if you have a sweet tooth, reach out for the fruits and other things, because those things carry fiber with it. So even though there is a sugar in the fruit, that sugar is absorbed very slowly. It brings other micronutrients. It gives you a sweet tooth, but it brings in many other beneficial things. But sugar brings nothing with it. So
nothing.
We all have sweet tooth. We all want to enjoy sometimes sweetness, but go for the fruits. In terms of sugar substitutes, as I understand, that even diet soda has shown to cause obesity, diabetes, prediabetes, Alzheimer's disease, and actually diet soda also affects our microbiome, because when we take Splenda, there was the one study done where people were given sugar substitute, and within 1 week, their microbiome had changed. So I also advise people to avoid the sugar substitute as much as possible. So that brings us the next processed food, which is also salt. I call it the SOS, the salt, sugar, and oil. So next is the salt. What is your opinion on salt?
Like I said, it's another of those salt, unlike sugar, is a nutrient that the body needs, just because, there's the sodium, the water, the potassium balance, as a cardiologist, there is a need. But the problem comes with overconsumption of salts. So the recommended amount is about 2,300 milligrams, which is about, like your 1 teaspoon averaging is what you need throughout the day. Sadly enough, most of our salt is again coming from the processed food. People might think, I'm not adding salt to my food. This is a common answer I get. Well, what did you eat? I ate macaroni and cheese. How much salt did that have? So just giving those examples, or making them just starting, or rather transitioning and working on your mind to start thinking about these things. What I have on my plate, what is that? And it could be something as simple as, kids love it here, is your chicken nuggets with like barbecue sauce, ketchup, or sodium. Sodium, it's so high in sodium, where, like I said, the recommended amount is about 1 teaspoon through the day.
No, that's an excellent point. I think, like you said, salt is an essential food we need to eat. It's just that we eat too much of it. I think, as I understand, in America, people eat almost 7 to 8 grams of salt, almost like 2 to 3 times more than we need to. At the same time, if you have a high blood pressure, if you have heart failure, in my opinion, the salt you get from natural food is adequate. You don't need added. And second thing, you made an excellent point that all the processed food has a hidden salt. Bread has so much salt. Cheese actually has the highest salt. So when you eat any cheese, like pizza has got the highest amount of salt. People don't realize this. Very high. I did not put the salt in my food, but they had a slice of pizza, which gave them a whole day of salt in one slice of pizza. So absolutely. I think I'm glad we covered this SOS, the salt, oil, and sugar. Let's go to the next topic. It's a hot topic now about omega-3 and omega-6. And, I've been taking my flaxseed as often as I can, typically 5-6 days a week. What is your opinion on flaxseed, and how to balance omega-6 and omega-3?
So basically, human body can produce, I mean, almost all, like, almost all fatty acids, excepting, a few, which is, of course, our omega-3s and the omega-6s. And these are, in very layman's words, are essential fatty acids that we need to supply from our diets. Right. So, where can we get that from? We can get that from, I mean, just to, name a few, like Dr. Shah said, flaxseed, a wonderful, wonderful source of our omegas. Walnuts is another one, tofu, our soybeans, our fatty fish. If you are a fish eater, like salmon is another great source of our omegas. So if you can, get it from your diet, it's wonderful. And I say, instead of just popping in a pill, if, like Dr. Shah said, I do the same thing, I just take, on my, whether it's, whatever I've made, a soup or whatever, even a salad, I just, sprinkle about half a teaspoon of flax powder. So that's how I get my, intake of omegas. And I try to do that 5 to 6 days a week, So yeah, it's absolutely extremely important. And I don't know what your take is, Dr. Shah, but if people, if you feel like your diet is not wholesome and you're not able to meet it, then go ahead and take your, pills. But if you're able to.
I agree with you. I think the reason we covered the oil, because omega-6 comes from all the vegetable oils. So if you eliminate, or if you take minimum amount of vegetable oil, your omega-6 intake will go down. And it's the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio which is important.
Very important.
Taking a lot of omega-6, your need for omega-3 also goes down too. So I think if you take 1 tablespoon of flaxseed 4, 5, 6 times a week, and if you keep the minimum vegetable oil, your omega-6, omega-3 ratio will be fine. And you can actually, matter of fact, check that ratio, and it's only like $50 or $60. I had my ratio checked, and my ratio was 4 to 1, 5 to 1. Any ratio below 6 to 1 is adequate. An average 6 to 3 ratio for omega-6 to omega-3 ratio in America is 15 to 20 to 1. And because a lot of people eat a lot of vegetable oils, they don't have any omega-3, so their ratio is very high. And omega-6 being pro-inflammatory causes a lot of inflammation, but omega-3 prevents the inflammation. So we definitely need a low ratio of omega-6 to omega-3. My next question to you, Moushumi, is...
I say it's, sorry, I'm interrupting you. I'd say these are puzzle pieces. Think of them like that, your omega-6 and your omega-3. One can't do without the other. So like, a wonderful point, Dr. Shah. So if you're doing a lot of your vegetable oil, you better be doing your omega-3s to make sure that you're balancing it all out. So thank you for that. Yes.
My next question to you, which is kind of an important question, because if I remember, people from Blue Zone, only 10% of calories come from animal products. While in America, almost 25, 30%, 25% of calories come from animal products. So I personally feel that if we want to live long, live healthy, we need to cut our animal products. What is your opinion on how much animal product calories should come, and what kind of animal products we should definitely avoid, and what kind of animal products, if we want to have, we should have?
So basically, I'm not a very pro-animal product person, like you said, I do fish maybe once or twice a week, but that's it. The bottom line with having meat is, if you are somebody who just cannot stay without meat, you have to have it. Unprocessed, properly cooked meat is what you want to have, that does have nutrients, that does have health benefits. Now, when I weigh on a scale, and it's a hard comparison, I could argue saying that a lot of the plant proteins have the same exact nutrients, but you also get your fiber with it. So, at least if not every day, at least a few times a week, try to do your plant proteins instead of your animal proteins. As like you said, in the Blue Zone diet, they do about 10% or less of animal proteins, and they are, they've lived the longest, they've had the highest longevity, if I'm sure you've read about it. And I think the reason is because the meat consumption is very minimal. So we could aim.
I think I'll tell you a little story for 1 minute. One of
Yes.
my patients who was actually a meat producing farmer. And he said that, Dr. Shah, if everybody becomes whole food plant-based with minimum EAT, what will happen to my job? What will happen to my income? So you know what my answer was, Moushumi? I said that have your meat be sold like a diamond. When we buy a diamond, we spend thousands of dollars and we have maybe 5 diamonds in our house. Same way, if we make animal product very expensive, almost like a delicacy, almost like a condiment, where we pay large money, so no farmer suffers, nobody suffers in terms of losing money. We have our taste, we have our meat product, it's about 10%. So it's a win-win-win situation, because I'm not saying that let's eliminate all meat, because for economy, that may not be good. But I'm saying make the meat so precious and so valuable and so much of a delicacy, so much of a condiment, that we eat less meat, because that's good for our health. So I think I don't want people to feel like I want everybody to go 100% vegan. Maybe vegan itself is not necessarily the push here. The push here is to cut down on the animal products and eat animal products as like a treat instead of your main meal. In America, I see people have animal products in breakfast, like a
And half of the plate.
bacon, salami, they have a lunch meat and then they have a dinner meat. That's too much of an animal product in one day. That's what I want people to understand. We should be eating less animal products. I'm not saying zero animal products.
Thank you. And if I can just add to that, Dr. Shah, when, like Dr. Shah said, it is more than the meat, it's a percentage, and it's also the processing. So, like he said, breakfast could be your bacon, very processed, high sodium, we just talked about it, right? Then the lunch meats, we have to be so careful, because I cannot tell you how many ingredients are. I mean, I could be sitting here all evening and talking about lunch meats. I mean, so be really careful about the quality of your meat, where you're getting it from, and make sure it is not undergoing any processing, because that is where a lot of your problems come from. And like Dr. Shah said, I completely agree. I mean, here, I'm not saying no meats at all either. I'm saying minimal, like a treat. Very often, I know your first question was, what is the American diet? So if you look at one of our plates, we are all Americans. If you look, very often I see an American plate, half of the plate being your meat. Okay, let's change that mindset. Half of your plate needs to be your fruits and vegetables. Only quarter needs to be a protein, which again could be a meat or your plant proteins or anything. So changing the portion sizes is also where the trick comes, which is, I think, the biggest, your biggest goal. Change your portion sizes for an overall healthy outlook to how even your plate looks then.
I agree with you. My next question to you, so far I think it's going great. I hope people are enjoying. I'll be taking the questions as we go. So please have your comments and your questions. Again, if you are watching this thing live, share on your page so your friends and family can watch it too. And definitely when you are done, have a watch party. Invite your friends to like our page, both Moushumi's page and my page. We post pretty much every day about healthy living. So be a part of the movement, and let's do it together. My next question, which is kind of a repeat of the question, but what do you think of fiber, importance of fiber and fiber itself, and why we all should be eating adequate amount of fiber?
I think I cannot tell you enough about the importance of fiber. One of the main reasons I also push plant-based lifestyle, plant-based meals, is because of the fiber content. So they say on an average, a man should have get about 38% fiber in his diet. We are barely, we barely reach 10 to 15%. So processed is our foods. So that's why when I, was just saying, eyeball and look at your plate to make sure half of your plate is your fruits and vegetables, because you're getting a lot of fiber from there too. And if we talk about our plant proteins, like our legumes and our beans, high fiber. We just had Father's Day yesterday. One of the highest cancer rates for men is prostate cancer, colorectal cancer, and fiber again. If we paid heed to fiber and how much fiber we are actually consuming, whether it be in our meals and snacks, I think it would make a huge, huge difference in our lifestyles, because that fiber would also mean, hydration. If you have a high fiber diet, you need to be very well hydrated. So overall, then, you'd feel like your energy levels are better, your gut bacteria would be better. So you see how everything is related. That's why I call it the circle of life, because, food and how we are eating is so, all our macros and everything is so related. It's almost like one can't do without the other. So
I think that's an excellent point about fiber. We have on our YouTube channel a 30-minute video on fiber itself, whole 30 minutes. And like you said, our microbiome, the bacteria which resides in our colon, matter of fact, we have more genetic material from bacteria than our own genetic material. We have more cells from bacteria in our colon than our own cells. And those bacteria need soluble fiber. So we must eat soluble fiber, because now there's enough science coming out that when the microbiome is disturbed, a lot of disease happen, including diabetes, including many cancers. Plus fiber itself, prevents many cancers. Matter of fact, fiber is one of the few micronutrients and one of the nutrients which actually is shown to cause longevity. When you eat 10 extra gram of fiber, mortality or chance of dying goes down by 10%. And like Moushumi said, we need about 30 gram of fiber. Most Americans get 10 gram of fiber. And some Americans, some of my patients, some of my friends get only 5 gram of fiber. They don't know how much of a health risk they are taking by not eating enough fiber. And fiber comes from whole food plant-based diet. So you must eat whole food plant-based to have the fiber. My general rule is that if there are less than 3 gram of fiber, at least 2 gram of fiber,
yes,
calories, don't eat that food. 2 gram of fiber for 100 calories. So if your bread has 110 calorie but doesn't have 2 gram of fiber, that's not a good.
It's a no-no. Absolutely, absolutely.
My next question to you is how to handle this emotional eating. That question comes to from my patients many times, comes to our page many times, that I'm an emotional eater. Many times when I'm stressed out, I eat. Many times in the late evening when I come from work, it was a stressful day at work, and I just sit and eat because I'm stressed out. How can you handle that?
So this is, what we call, and a really hot topic, and I work with this a lot, is called mindful eating. So anytime, we say we are hungry, number one rule of thumb, ask yourself, am I hungry or am I thirsty? Okay, because many a times, we don't recognize, it's sad enough. I don't know whether, we would blame it on our busy lifestyles or what, but we do not recognize our body cues. I say you are the best person to know your body. So when you think I'm hungry, there's two things, I say, ask yourself, is it mind hunger or is it stomach hunger? Okay. Number two, am I thirsty or am I actually hungry? So maybe get yourself a glass of water, drink your water. Okay. Number three is, if you really think you're hungry, I say, you are going to go to your pantry or whatever, keep only healthy snacks. In my blog, I often write about healthy snacks. I know Dr. Shah does too. So, look at the list of healthy snacks I have in there. And then, the fourth thing is, don't say you're having organic popcorn, nothing added. Do not bring that whole packet of popcorn and sit with it. Just take your 1 cup, that's enough, and then go and sit and enjoy your popcorn. Okay, so there is a lot of studies, there are which we know, there are the hormones, the ghrelins, that actually cause, can trigger some of the hunger pangs, and they're also related to how our bodies behave, and and they're related to weights too. But rule of thumb is, listen to your body cues. Do not, many a times I've noticed people come back from work and say, even before thinking, they head straight to the pantry, because they think, oh, now I'm done with work, my comfort zone is, or my comfort thing is to eat. No, maybe instead drink a glass of water, okay, go out for a walk, come back, and by then your body might actually be hungry. So what I'm saying is, just like little babies or little kids, who want to eat when they're hungry, let's also work our brains to actually eat when we are hungry, not just like stress eat or eat because, oh, I'm just sitting, and I'm sitting and I have nothing to do, so I need to just go and grab something to eat.
I think those are excellent points. And the way I tell my patients that when you are thinking that you have emotional eating, actually you have to understand that emotions and stress requires its own stress management. And you have to have kind of different methods, which includes exercising regularly, which includes sleeping regularly, which includes going out for a walk with a friend regularly, which includes not having boredom and having hobbies in the life, which includes having enough relationship, which includes having meditation. So if you are a stress eater, reach out to those techniques. Not only they are helpful for you in the long term, but they also many times will stop on the long term the stress hunger. Because if you just going to succumb to the hunger part and say that hunger part is the only way you're going to respond to your stress, there are many other ways, many other healthy ways of lowering your stress. As a matter of fact, when you do those techniques, not only your emotional hunger goes down, but your whole body starts feeling so good that you almost get addicted to see how can I just come in the evening and go for a walk. To give you my example,
Absolutely.
as soon as I come home, I walk 2 hours. Like before our live tonight, I already walked 2 hours because that's like my new habit. It busts my stress. I don't eat stressfully. I used to eat 3-4 years ago. Now I have turned that stress release into my walking. So find a stress release mechanism instead of going out for the food itself. So that's a great question. The next question, which is I think your pet question, you told us many times, how do you go grocery shopping? Because whenever we enter grocery shopping, there are like aisles and aisles of processed food. How can we go there and do a healthful grocery shopping?
I think I've shared this tip before also, Dr. Shah. The one important thing is, do not go grocery shopping when you're hungry, because when you're hungry, you tend to grab foods that are more unhealthy. Okay. The second thing that I really work with all my clients on is, and that I work myself too, I do this on a regular basis, is meal planning, prepping, and my grocery list. So basically, once you've meal planned and you know what you're going to eat for the week, then you have a grocery list that you follow. And then once you're done with your groceries, you then meal prep. So when you're going into the grocery store, you have an ongoing list there, and you're just not buying because you have to buy or because it's on sale. You're buying because you already have something planned. So, to put it in layman's term, we do so much better in our lives or at work when we are organized, right? So similarly, it's about organization. I've organized, and I'm not saying, it has to be, completely, like a black and white rule, like, okay, I'm just going to eat, say, tacos today, salad tomorrow. No, just an idea that these are the things we are going to be having for the week. So then you go out with a list. Do not ever go out without a list, because that's when you tend to buy, other foods. And then, using which I, also put on my blog, food swaps, trying to, instead of getting your like chips and, your high salt pretzels and things like that, let's go more for like a nuts, other healthier things, our yogurts and all of those. I always say, first do your periphery of the store, which is your vegetables, your protein, your dairy, instead of going into the middle aisles, because that's where all your candy and cookies and, things like that are there. Saying that, I will say for long term, if you had a cookie once in a while, or, some chips, it's not the end of the world. It's about being all inclusive. It's about being able to do something sustainable. It's about reaching a happy media that I am able to follow through the rest of my life. So, I mean, if you ask me, do I have a cookie? Of course I do, but do I have it every day? Absolutely not. So there comes, it's all about a balancing act and about organizing and about, like you said, with the emotional eating, taking even a few seconds to think about what we are eating instead of just putting it in our mouths, just because, it's like that instant satisfaction. Instead of doing that, think about it, what am I eating? What am I doing? So yeah, so with grocery shopping, like I said, being organized is my tip. If you're organized, and then, you will notice, which I know Dr. Shah has noticed too, I have noticed too, once you follow a certain pattern of healthy eating and exercising and meditating and all of that, it'll become so imbibed, it'll become so much a part of you that even when you go to your grocery store, you're going shopping, you will get excited seeing all the different colors of the vegetables, all the rainbow colors. Like I get excited seeing carrots and celery and, my radishes and all of that. I mean, those, I'll be honest with you, those excite me more than, some of the, chips and things like that. Those are not as exciting. So I think it's about, feeling it from inside, you just start feeling so much better energy wise,
I think your point of turning this into habits. We had a great person in our live on, I believe on Saturday, Steve Sharma from Chicago, whole food, plant-based, running marathons. Everybody should reach out to his video on YouTube. It's already on YouTube. He gave us a great way of saying how we can create our destiny. He said that it starts with a thought. So just a thought of organizing grocery shopping, and then having actions. Actions leads to habits. Habits leads to lifestyle, and lifestyle leads to our destiny. I mean, he put it in such a simple way that it starts just with a thought. So if we just start tonight with a thought that when I go grocery shopping next time, I'm buying more vegetables and fruits. And if you do it 5 or 10 or 15 times, that's an action. Then it will become a habit. And once you do habit for a few years, it will become a lifestyle, and you will live it like that until you die. And that will be your destiny. So I agree with you, creating those habits by having the thought. And Moushumi, you are creating those thoughts in all our followers. So that's a great feeling. So that's going to bring
you.
Next question. But let me tell you, that answer was given to Moushumi by us, to Jayshree, my wife, about 15 years ago. Moushumi told us that when you go to any party, Jayshree still quotes Moushumi all the time. Before you go to any party, eat your salad at home and then go to party. So my question to Moushumi is, how can we handle going to the parties many times, Christmas party, work party, graduation party, all those parties are so much invitation to eat unhealthy food. How can we handle those parties?
So first of all, thank you, Dr. Shan. Thank you to Jayashri. That's huge to me that she still remembers that and follows that. And that is my pet peeve. In fact, whenever I go for any get-togethers or any of those parties, I make sure that I eat a little salad or something, so I'm not like starving when I reach the party. And I know a lot of people now are leaning towards healthier foods, but overall, when there is like a big get together, people tend to serve fried foods. There's alcohol, there's a lot of things in there. So number one, make sure you're not starving. Make sure you've eaten something. And when I say eaten something, maybe like a little salad, it could be a fruit salad, something, because your salads are, again, high fiber, they keep you full so much longer. Or maybe just your little, 1 cup of steamed broccoli or something. So then when you reach there and, when you are, at your get together, again, my rule of thumb, number one, if they have salad plates and dinner plates, go for the salad plates. I'd rather go for the salad plates than the dinner plates, because again, it's your mindset. If you take a bigger plate, you're automatically trying to fill it. So go for your smaller plates. And if you are still hungry, or if you want to try something else, go for a second helping. It's not a big deal, but try taking the smaller plate. Try, most all places now have fresh fruits, fresh vegetables. Try to, first get those. And then start working on, other foods, So first go for like whatever, this is what I do. If it's displayed on the table, I make a round, I eyeball and see what's actually what's there, what's being served. And then and I know a lot of us get tempted to first hit the dessert table or whatever, but again, I try to first eat my salad or whatever vegetable is in there, and fill your little plate with that, have a serving of that, and then go for the rest of the food. And of course, desserts at the end. I'm not saying don't do your desserts, definitely do that. Again, portion control, instead of doing 3, 4, 5 of those, just take a smaller one or split one. It's great if you can just split it with somebody. I mean, same with restaurants. I mean, I think one of the major problems here that we face today are our portion sizes. So eating out is a lot of fun. I know it's a social thing, but then, even before we order something, we always try to, in our family, we try to split it. So then you don't end up eating so much. Now, if you are by yourself, say you've just gone to a restaurant by yourself, what are you going to do? Before you start eating, have the waiter bring your carry-out box, break it up into half, put it in your carry-out box, and then eat the half portion. So you don't come back feeling uncomfortable or you've not overeaten. I mean, simple tips, but things, you want to kind of remember even before, heading there, because sometimes the mindset is, oh my gosh, I'm going to a restaurant, I'm excited, I'm going to be eating. Of course, we are going to be eating, we're going to enjoy the food, but let's try working on the portions, or saying things like, I'll tell you what, like, can you give me the sauce on the side? Because you know what, there is so much sauce, so much gravy. Those are your killer things. They're loaded with your sodium or your sugar. They are high fat. So if you ask them, in fact, it's such an eye opener. If you ask them to put it on the side, you probably will be surprised at how much sauce comes in
How much sauce it is. Yes, until it comes in a separate container, you don't even know how much was in the food. Yeah.
Right,
See, that's an
exactly.
excellent,
So it's like,
that's an excellent recommendation that we should be asking it on the side. Same with dressing too. I think we should be asking it on the side.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
let me ask you one more question. That do you have any specific advice because we have a lot of Indian followers who live in America, and obviously some followers in India also. Do you have any specific 5-minute, 3-minute advice that how can an Indian person living in America who likes to eat Indian food from their own state, and how can they make the food very healthy? Because traditionally, many Indians are vegan or vegetarian, but their food is not very healthy. So how can you make a healthy Indian food?
Thank you for that question. In fact, a lot of my clientele, because of the, where I come from, are, Indians who are living in this country. So the first and foremost thing that I will say, just like, we talked about the American diet, if we talk about the Indian diet, I think the Indian diet is high on carbs. It's like a carb loaded diet. And when I say carb loaded diet, it's not so much the multigrain. It's like, your white rice, your refined flours and things like that. So the few things that you can do is, for example, I always say mix maybe some quinoa with your rice, or have a mix of brown and white rice. I know that's your staple. That's how you've been brought up. So it's hard to make that change of, I don't want to eat that. And there is nothing wrong in eating some carbs. It's just that we want to make sure they're multigrain. And the portion sizes, like I said, typically an Indian, if you look in an, typical Indian plate, it's loaded with carbs. It's like a higher, half of the plate is going to be your chapatis, which are your tortillas, or your rice, and then only a quarter will be your vegetable, and maybe a quarter will be a protein. So I think, again, the major problem comes from the carbs. So we can change that. That is number one. Number two is, I think Dr. Shah and I touched base with about it already. Our oils, we do Indian cooking has a lot, you can use a lot of oil. And the third is the sodium. I cannot tell you, a lot of people of Indian origin don't recognize this, but we do tend to add a lot of salt in our curries and, all, whatever you're making. And really speaking, because we use so many spices and herbs, we can cut back the sodium way back. So these are some of the things that, I would recommend. Other than that, I feel like, exercise is not a big part of the, people who have been raised in India. I mean, there is a lot of awareness now. So, do that is very important. And the last thing is, I've noticed a lot of, people coming from India, we tend to eat really late at night, dinners are later, and then you just go to bed right after that. So there is really, you're not like helping metabolize or digest your food. You're not moving around after that. So changing your meal times is also something I think is very important for like the Indian clientele.
I think those are excellent points, and I think those points, in my opinion, are not many times discussed, because the mainstream people who talk about healthy eating in America, many of them still are learning about Indian food. So, a person like you brings a lot of wealth of knowledge, and I agree with you. Nighttime eating is very common, and actually, there is a way of saying in Sanskrit that eating at night is door to the hell. So,
Yes.
I mean, I will put up that Sanskrit slok or Sanskrit way of saying one day on our page, but eating at night is definitely an entrance to hell, because eating at night is very, very unhealthy. And we'll talk about that some other time. Let me ask you last question from one of our followers. He has asked the question from Steve Sharma, actually, the person I was quoting. He says that any recommendations on how to start eating salt-free?
Yes. So salt-free, I think there's a couple of things that, I would suggest. One is, adding your fresh herbs. Herbs give you a lot. In fact, the two important things are your herbs and your spices that you can really work on for cutting back your salt. And then the third most important thing is staying away from any processed foods. Again, a lot of people of Indian heritage, tend to, because of our busy lifestyles here, we tend to eat processed, ready-made foods, and those are loaded with salt. So that, and then of course, keeping a hydration really well so that, you're flushing your system. So it's not, so the foods are not as high in salt. That's another of my tips for, controlling your sodium. So.
Yes, I think same question came up to us when I was interviewed by Chef Aajay. And actually, Chef Aajay was kind enough to send out some salt substitute, just like sugar substitute, salt substitute. And I'm going to put that name up on our page. But that's the substitute which came from California. Is so tasty, has no salt. It absolutely makes me feel the salt is not necessary. So I will put the name of that company. It's slightly expensive, but I think when it comes down to health, a small investment into salt substitute is definitely long-term, very, very cost-effective and very, very disease-saving or very health-saving. So again, that brings us to our end. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you, Moushumi, for all this great information. We should be bringing you every 3 months with all the updates. If anybody wants to reach out to her, I already have put on the slide her phone number, her website. We will be doing this thing on YouTube probably by tonight, tomorrow morning for sure. So watch it again and again. Share this YouTube video with your friends and with your family. And if you have any questions, reach out to Moushumi, reach out to me, invite your friends to her page, invite to her page, invite to our page, and I will go ahead and stop this live. Thank you again, Moushumi. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And good night.
Good night.